You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Boom! That's exactly it.
Do that. Let's do that.
Boom! Chris Stone. Hey, I'm going to start off with a compliment. Okay? Because I watch that little intro every week, and I see a lot of other intros. I mean, some guys are really cool. You ever see Waldo? Waldo's like he was a fighter pilot. He's got
Waldo Waldman, yeah. That Waldo,
he's got
not
like
fine
jets
Waldo.
going, crazy and all this stuff. But after a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, you're kind of waiting what's going on. Everything gets boring. What you made for me doesn't get boring. Maybe it's just me, because it doesn't get boring.
When you have a 1 minute reel of yourself, it's pretty awesome to you. No, but other people do think it's awesome. Yeah, that's thank you.
No, because
that's the idea. Yeah,
I've seen things that you've done for other people, and that's kind of your style. You keep things flowing, that it's not getting old and go. So it's very
entertain, educate, and make people laugh. I guess that's part of entertaining.
You got to work on that one, but you're close. But
I got to add another E.
That's right. Yeah, you got to use triads. That's the thing. It's like a good sales presentation. You always keep them wanting more and all that stuff. So big news. So I got a couple new clients, but I got this one, which is so much fun because it's getting me back out. I'm actually doing like prospecting in person, like walking in. Hey, I'm one of those sales time of characters, don't I look it? And a couple of things have changed since the last time I had to do this. First, I got different color hair. I dyed it gray to make me look more, I'm just kidding. Anyway,
I was going to say, dude, well, I mean, it's a thing.
That was a fancy way of saying I've gotten a little older. Yeah. And secondly, everybody else has gotten a little younger. And so what's happened was, it's like the people that you're dealing with, man, there's a whole different dynamic, which is so much better. It is so much better. And I'm so psyched because our guest today is also of the same ilk. And here's the thing. I make sure I know nothing about our guests. This way I don't lead people in any direction. I just let it go where it happens. And so I'm sure, just by his skill and that awesome book that he wrote, I know I am going to learn some stuff and have some fun. See, when you deal with younger people, they know everything. And so this guy, we can at least get some stuff. We've all made mistakes. So please help me welcome, without any further ado, my new best friend, Glenn Poulos. There he is.
Yeah, arms in the air. Glenn, let's go.
I'm talking about. How's that for like the world's best intro?
Awesome. Outlandish, outrageous, I guess. Everything in between.
You need another O to make it a triad.
Yeah,
that was outrageous, outlandish, and outstanding.
I don't know if you're being my straight man, but there's a chapter in my book called The Power of Three. So I think that's what you mean by the triad. And
my gosh. So wait a second. Yeah. You've got a book?
A book, yeah.
Okay, well, before we even get started, let's first of all, where can we get the book? And I want to get it. I'm one of those people that actually reads books, and so I'll actually read it. So I'm going to get this thing. And the title is
Never Sit in the Lobby. And so 57 winning sales factors to grow a business and build a career selling. And you can pretty much get it everywhere books are sold. If you go to my website, glennpoulos.com, it'll link you to all the different places. But obviously, it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Chapters in Canada, etc. And it's available in all the formats. If if you can stand the sound of my voice, you can listen to me narrate 71,000 words on Audible. And
really,
yeah, that was really
Wow.
fun doing that. That was one of the most fun parts of the whole process was getting to do the voiceover. And
well, so that's terrific. So that's something that's like the extra mile. There's a people write books, and it's like one of those things you do when you get out speaking and stuff. But doing the voiceover stuff, that's big time. Did you hire someone to do that, or did you just do it yourself on your iPhone?
So no. Well, see, like whenever something like that comes up, it's like now I can say, honey, I need to spend a whole bunch of money buying a bunch of gear that I didn't own, because I have to do a voiceover. And so I actually used to have a recording studio in my basement, and and I'd record, rock bands and some rap guys and make, demo CDs and stuff. And just love the being on that side of the mic in terms of recording and the like. And so I had a lot of gear, but I used this opportunity to go and buy a bunch more so I could, get the latest microphone and so then I did the talking myself. There was a guy who did some listening and editing and coached me that I was talking too fast, talking too slow, that kind of thing. I gave him a few samples, but it was a lot of fun. It was just finding a quiet place to do it. And it was
great. Now, are you able to do you ad lib as you're reading?
No, because there's a new feature with the way I chose to put it on Audible, which is the most common. And Audible and Kindle, they sync, whisper sync. And so if let's say you're reading at night in bed on your Kindle and you leave it, chapter 4.3.6, you know what I mean? Like when you get in the car, you turn it on Audible. If you had both copies, it would sync up to the word you closed your Kindle that night before. It's very cool. So you have to do word for word.
Oh,
no,
I can never do that.
Yeah.
That's
that was actually the hardest part, was because I do want to ad lib. And
especially because when you write a book, as you're reading it, you're like, oh man, I could
say
this.
It better.
It's changed. It's changed. Things have changed since then. That's awesome. So how long, Poulos, by the way, Greek?
It is Greek. Yeah.
Oh, you're the second Greek I met in 2 days.
Beware of Greeks bearing gifts, right? That's
I know. Say. I'm just in the mood for feta
I've never
cheese
heard
now.
that. I've never heard. Where's my gift, Glenn?
Yeah.
Do you have a gift for us today? You're just your expertise, your outstanding expertise is a gift.
Actually, Greeks are like that. Anytime they come to your house, it's like Indians too. When they come to your house, they always have a whole like a pile of like candies and ready for the go. Whenever you go to somebody's house, you got to bring them. Of course, you guys bring baklava or something.
Exactly. That's where I came up with the saying, something in your hand and something in your mind, right? And so whenever I show up at a customer, I always have something in my hand and something in my mind. It's not always a gift, but it might be a promo item, water bottle. It might be a piece of literature. It might be the quote that they asked for. But I always have something in my hand and I always have something in my mind to talk to them about. And so I'm never at a loss for, why I'm there or where to take the conversation.
Wonderful. So that's that's a good point. A lot of times people will not call back, will not follow up because they really don't know what to say. There's no reason to follow up. So one of those reasons could just be what? An idea, a gift, what?
So so the one thing, it's always for me a combination of sales calls, phone calls, emails, and presentations, right? And so it's never the same thing over and over again. So it's not like I have to constantly be sort of visiting the customer, but each interaction is building on the last one. And while I'm in the midst of the first one, I'm figuring out what the next one needs to be. So I might be talking to them on the phone, and then I'm going to coordinate to send them some follow-up facts via email, at which point I'm going to be scheduling an appointment to come and visit them, for fact finding, or maybe it's for a presentation. And when I'm at that one, I'm going to schedule my next 1 or 2 calls back to them so that it doesn't really require any work. And, and I just have a series of contact points, and where I'm moving them from phone call to email to visit to presentation, to follow up, etc. And that's how I typically structure my time in front of customers, so that I don't have to spend a whole day trying to get a bunch of sales calls lined up to, to talk about random things. Right. And in between those calls, that's where I apply some of my rules, like my 80-20-20-80 rule about, finding new customers around my biggest customers. And so it's
80,
that's real
20,
old
20, 80. There was a lot of that added up to more than 100.
It did. Yeah. Because I never know, is it 20-80, 80-20? So I just spit them all out, and I'll say, just pick the one that you feel works out best, because mostly it's the 80-20 rule. Right. And so 80% of the, it's the Pareto Principle, right? 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. It's a very common, obviously, saying and what have you. But what I realized when I was selling the number 2 brand was I was competing against, in a way, the 80%, right? And so there's the big customers, and those big customers, 80% of the time, were buying from my competitor, right? And so in that way, mathematically, when I was competing at those particular customers, I was really only able to access the 20%. And what I ended up finding out was that oftentimes they even would buy the number 1 brand 80% of the time, the 20%, right? And so what I realized was that there were all sorts of, I'm in high tech and selling high tech equipment. Around a lot of those big number 1 customers were other customers. I call them like feeder customers, right? And they were like typically duly ignored by the large number 1, because the number 1 was getting 80% of his business from 20% of his customers. So he was ignoring 80% of his customers. And so they were uncared for. They would phone and they would struggle to get a response. And the number 2 guy, who would be, of course, targeting the larger customers to get my shot at the 20%, but I would spend all my time on the 80 that they were ignoring. And they're like, oh, the big guy never visits us. The big guy never visits us. Mm-hmm. And there were times when I would lose to them, but that was a great way I found to separate myself, right? Most people say, oh, I want to go for that big customer, the IBM, the Honeywell, the Rockwell, whatever large customer or something like that. I would find every technology business around those businesses, and I would spend my time following up with them, visiting them. I would call on the big companies like Honeywell and Rockwell, obviously, but and I often found I got my unfair share of that business, because we became a pleasure to do business with. Mm-hmm. They would struggle to get responses, demos, proposals from the big guy, because the big guy thought he had it covered, because he was getting 80% of his number from 20% of his customers. So why did he bother? Because, he spent all day at a big customer, sitting at his desk with his badge, and, he's got the customer's badge on and collecting orders. And, 4 o'clock, he finishes his 5 o'clock day at 4 o'clock, starts heading home, right? Man, I had a great day, man. I really knocked it out of the park. Yep. And there's 12 technology businesses right within 2 minutes of that business. How many of them do you think he stops at on his way home? Yeah. Well, if he's in Canada, go ahead. Sorry.
That 4 o'clock checkout is 3 o'clock on Fridays.
Yes,
like
exactly.
That's basically. But yeah, it's very easy for the number 1, for the salespeople at the number 1 player to become order takers, because they're earning a lot of money being order takers, and you think they're good. It's like, you're riding your bicycle downhill. You're not really, you're not as good as you think you are. But what happens is the people who are it makes you realize that, as Zig Ziglar said a million years ago, the most important part of the sale is the salesperson. And if you keep stopping by, if you keep hanging out, if you keep following up, they're going to start counting on you as always being there. And then they're no longer doing business with that company. They're doing business with the salesperson at the company. And that's, then you have no competition when that takes place. So what do you sell now, my friend?
So we sell basically, I work for a company called Gap Wireless, which I founded in 2007. And we actually just had a liquidity event. I just sold the business, myself and my business partner, to a U.S. private equity. and we agreed to stay on for a few years and help them with the ongoing growth of the business. But we sell wireless infrastructure. So if you have ever driven down the highway and you looked up at these big towers on the side of the road, cell phone towers, we sell everything up on that tower, all that stuff. If you've been in a stadium and your cell phone works, if you look up, you'll see all sorts of these white panels. Those are cell phone antennas inside stadiums. We sell all that stuff. And we sell instruments and what we call measuring instruments that help you measure signals, to make sure signal quality and, basically the instruments that engineers use to measure electronic signals. And so it's kind of techie and, but it's a very fast growing business with 5G. It's a very busy time right now. And
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're sitting pretty in your monochrome room there.
Yeah,
Just
right.
so, and you got a few years left on this, and you're sticking around. Was this an equity player or another company?
Yeah. So we're the second company from a private equity bought a large U.S. company, and that U.S. company bought us. And so we're the second one into a new fund of a private equity called Grain Management. And so we were bought by the first operating business that they bought. But but
it is their obligation to spend a certain amount of money and get that fund done. And so
that's right.
It was the right time.
It was perfect. Yeah.
Well, that's excellent. So you're going to run this out, and then what? What's on the horizon? You obviously have a story to tell.
Yeah, you were saying about your sizzle reel at the beginning, right? It's fun to watch that, and we all love the sound of our own voice, right? Or at least a lot of us do, especially salespeople. I would love to, within the realm of possibility and opportunity, do a little bit of public speaking, help a few businesses here and there, I probably won't need to work, super hard, right? I'm not looking for my next job at 63 or 65 years of age, right? But I'd love to go out sort of in a blaze of speaking glory, do some public speaking and, until they're sick of the sound of my voice. And then I'll go off and play pickleball in sunny Florida or something, right?
That's it.
Wow. Pickleball. Well, that could be the first time ever, Dan, that pickleball's been brought up on this podcast. So
there we go.
So you get some confetti for pickleball.
Nice.
Usually we reserve that for some $25 vocabulary words, but Glenn, pickleball, fantastic. So we've got a question here from our friend Richard Booty, and Richard wants to know, what's the average markup on equipment versus services?
So typically, a distributor of sorts is typically operating on margins that are in the 15 to 25% range. Often it's rarely does it get up to 25, and it rarely drops below 15. It's usually problematic below that. Not to say we never take business below 15 or get business above 25, but the nominal is 18 to 22 is probably a fairly healthy and reasonable ongoing target margin expectation for equipment.
Got it. Well, hey, along those lines, I know Richard Booty is maybe finishing off a contract or starting a new one. Are you guys hiring there for salespeople?
We are indeed, actually, yeah. So we are part of a North American company, and we're in a very aggressive growth mode, and we call on wireless carriers, we call them wired carriers, and contractors that service those customers. Those are our biggest markets.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of that, we also, because of our test instruments, we call on, government and education institutions to a large degree as well. So the Department of Communications, Department of Defense, and also, schools of higher learning where there's an engineering program. The engineers are using equipment to test things. They're learning about electricity, they're learning about electronics. And so, but our biggest part of our business is calling on telecom companies, telecom providers.
Oh, that's good business. I actually have a couple people I could refer to you after the show.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. If that, so is that part of your deal right now? That's what you're in charge of doing?
Yeah. So right now I'm technically my role is I'm the general manager of Canada. So everything falls under me in Canada: sales, finance, administration, operations, warehousing, logistics, IT, marketing, all of it. I manage the whole company here in Canada, and I contribute at the corporate level with our parent on strategic, strategic initiatives. And so we have a director of sales in Canada here now, and but half of our business is North American, the other half is more Canada based. So
got it.
And we do have a large sales force in the US as well, as part of the company that bought us, right? So but it's all becoming sort of blending into one, because we were just bought in February, right? So the integration, it takes about 18 months to like fully integrate the brands. Right?
Were you guys allowed to talk to each other in February, or was everybody all muzzled up, or are you allowed to travel, or what's going on over there?
So Canada was pretty quiet up until just a few weeks ago, and so in February we were still locked down. I mean, we had the Omicron, and they re-engaged everything. We just lost our masks a few weeks ago, but now they're rapidly Canada's dropping the travel vaccination thing and all that really quickly. Now it's like dropping like really quickly, but up until recently we were fully locked down. So yeah, and so
how was that on a personal level? How were you dealing with that?
So we were deemed on March 2020, which is when I started writing the book, incidentally, because I couldn't go out at night and I couldn't go out on the weekends.
When you say you could, when you couldn't go out, was it against the law to go out, or just there was nothing to do?
In certain parts of Canada, there was a curfew, and you couldn't go out. It was illegal. Yeah. Now where I lived, it wasn't a curfew, but there was nowhere to go. And of course, everyone's like, "What are you out for?" Like, you better be going to get, pick up your groceries in the parking lot of the grocery store. You have to do all phone in your grocery orders and all that stuff, right? And but me personally, so we were deemed an essential service by I live in Toronto, right? And so and I manage our biggest warehouse location here in Canada, and we were deemed an essential service. So Bell, TELUS, Rogers, all the Canadian telecom companies, which you might have heard, Bell, of course, you've probably heard of, but they sent us a letter saying you can't close, you got to stay open. So we had to send all of our staff home to work at home, all the admin, marketing, salespeople. But our warehouse people and me, we came in every day from March 2020 right up until today. I've only not been at work a couple of days in that time. And each day I would bring in a different staff member to help me in the office. And basically my story was that I need one staff member in case I fall down and can't get up, right? Because at my age, I don't have a lifeline button on me, right? So I need at least one staff member to check on me every hour to make sure that I'm alive, and of course to support the warehouse, right? And the audio's not playing on my end at least, but that audio and that is me as well. By the way, I do all the voiceovers for all our videos at work too. And that's all the stuff we sell, all that stuff there, except for the radio, which is made by Ericsson or Nokia or Siemens or Samsung. We sell all that.
That is so cool. Now
that ball, we sell that ball that's staying in there. Yeah.
Do you ever climb up the tower?
I never got higher than about 10 feet, and you need to be licensed above 10 feet. And but I was up north one day and I attempted to climb it, and it was it's amazing how quickly you get it's like, okay, that's high enough.
Oh, you start to feel it in your nether regions in 2 seconds.
Yeah. So
it's not often you get to say the word nether regions on
you know what that gets.
Oh yeah. Every time we get in, sometimes you see these. They have these YouTube videos of somebody climbing all the way to the top. I mean, you lose your stomach just watching it.
Yeah, for sure.
Crazy. Yeah. I used to be able to do stuff like that, and it just kind of went away. I don't, I get close to. I watch somebody else climb a ladder, and I start getting queasy. But still got to do the. So I'm still blown away by this. So about the whole not being allowed to leave your house.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But let me ask, on a personal level, has it brought your family closer together, which I've seen happen too? It almost like you were fighting this together, or have you become more distant? Or
it brought your immediate family closer together because you were in a cohort, right? Like everyone had a cohort, and so the 4 people that live in my house became my cohort, and I wasn't allowed to like fraternize with anyone outside my cohort, and which I never even used that word up until like the last couple years.
It's an actual term now, cohort.
Yeah, and but prior to that, of course, Christmases for us was, and Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, whatever, those family dinners were usually at my house, usually like 15 to 25 brother, sister, cousin, a few cousins here and there, the nieces, the nephews, plus or minus 15 to 25. But from March 2020 on, gone. None of that. No Christmas, no Easter, no birthdays, the only people that you could be with was your own immediate
cohort,
family cohort. Exactly. And a few of my kids are, grown up and moved out, and they have their own, my oldest has his own kids, and you really didn't even get to see them for that period of time.
I'm glad that's over. It's good. All that stuff is done. So are you guys, when you say you're out there calling on clients again, are you out there calling on clients?
Yeah, we reinstitute all the travel budgets, all the car, obviously we pay car allowances and things for our salespeople and what have you. All of that was reinstated, and we're fully operational, not all customers are letting everyone in, but we're aggressively going after the ones that are allowing meetings. And soon I think the kimono will be fully open. You'll be able to visit anyone, but there's a few stragglers. They're self limiting. They're allowed by law. They're allowed to like restrict to their own comfort level. But most of our customers now we're visiting and doing lunches, we're doing dinners, we're doing sales calls, we're doing presentations, demos, trials, all that stuff.
That's it. So it's BYOC, bring your own cohort. All right, so
exactly.
Now let's talk about your book, because I think if you're looking to make a career out of this, or just an additional source of income from this, there's a guy we had on the show, a great guy, friend of mine, Larry Levine. He wrote this book, Selling from the Heart. He's really a wonderful guy. Now, I assume you're a special man, but he is too. But what he would do is, with his book, he would basically give a course, and he was doing virtual courses at the time, but it would be much better in person, taking a few chapters out of his book and then working with the team and things like that. It was kind of a fun thing for him. So if you had to pick like a chapter of your book that I could only read 1 or 2 chapters, which ones would they be and why?
So, okay, no problem. And I am also working on a course, but it's going to take a while because I'm trying to, it has to, in order for me to release it, I want it to be awesome. And the book serves a good purpose. I want to make sure if I do have a course or anything like that, that it serves an equally awesome purpose that I feel the book does. So
he would actually, if I could cut you off for a second, he would actually use the book as the course. So people were, hey, everybody gets a book. Read the first chapter and we're going to discuss it. So it's like a 12-week course that once a week they go ahead and do that. It's just a great business model. And if your book is as good as I think it is, I think you got some juice in there.
Okay. So to answer your question, so first of all, the book's designed that you can actually have it sitting, somewhere comfortable, and you can pick it up and flip to any chapter at any moment. It doesn't matter the chapter you read before. Each chapter stands alone. There's 57 tips. Each concept is, although some of them are presented in a row and they kind of build upon the one before it, they're not required. There's no precedence, or anything like that, or prerequisites is the word I'm looking for. And so, then you'd have to say, okay, so then what's the best of the 57, right? And so I will answer the question, but I'll also say how I answered it the other day as well, when the guy asked me, pick the best of the 57, which one should you focus on? And I said, well, you should focus on all 57 of them, right? I said, but the most important thing is to also focus on your health and well-being, because I mean, it doesn't matter how successful you are if you're not healthy and able to, participate in life. I mean, there's not much, none of it really amounts to anything, right? No amount of money, no amount of success. And so, this year I'm actually on a mission to improve my health and my fitness and my weight. We have this thing called the COVID-20, right? Which is the 20 pounds we all gained locked up at home at night, right?
With your cohort.
Yeah, with our cohort, right? Nothing else to do but snack. And but the tip that I always focus on for people that or end with sometimes is you only get forever to make another impression. And a lot of the titles are kind of like weird, like they're not brain teasers or anything, but they're like why what? That's kind of a, sell them some fries even when they don't want a burger, right? And they're just these, but they're catchy for a purpose, so that they stick out in your mind and you can remember them, right? Because I can say always remember to sell them the fries, and they're like, oh, well, even when they don't want a burger, right? Mm-hmm. And so. But you only get forever to make another impression. So the way I explain it is to some people that are just starting out or, changing jobs or whatever, is that most people's mom or dad tells them, look, son, you need to make a good first impression, right? You need to be dressed well. You need to have your hair cut and, put on a best face, because first impressions are lasting impressions, right? And I'm like, well, no, not exactly. I mean, they're important, but they're not as important as the impression I make every time I walk by your desk and I see that you're alt-tabbing from Facebook or Instagram back to the CRM, getting ready to call a customer, right? And in that split second, he's making an impression, right? And so I said, whenever you're in front of a customer, in front of a vendor, in front of a, your boss, in front of a friend, you're always making an impression. Mm-hmm. So you should always make an effort to make the best impression every single time, right? And so if you're at work, if you work in an office, I always, the story I tell is like, if you hear that boss's sports car pull into the parking lot and you hear the rumble of the engine, and the sound of that door thudding, which only means there's only one sound, and that's the sound of the boss's car, or you hear his particular footsteps on the walking down the hallway, you want to immediately go into like the best employee in the building mode, right? And and obviously we all have different levels of productivity throughout the day, but when you're making an impression, make a good one, right? When the boss walks by, ask him a question. You know what I mean? And show that you're involved and show that you're on the ball and that, you're not texting, right? You don't have your head down texting and your boss is standing up in front of you, right? These things make impressions, and people argue, oh, it's not that important and whatever. But I argue that every impression is a lasting impression. And
that's terrific. Yeah, that is good and very sound advice, because people have been working. People weren't used to working on their own, but then they had to work on their own, and then they've kind of forgot, hey, you got to get out of your bunny slippers. I mean, right. You gotta, you got to go back, and and actually it's an opportunity, because you go back. It's like, even if you were like a slouch before you left, it's like, it's like you're starting all over. You're going to a new school. You get to be whoever. You can act like the person you'd like to become. Very cool, Glenn Poulos. But you had the title of your book is intriguing to me.
Never sit in the lobby, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we've all had those situations where you're in the lobby for 20 minutes and you're thinking, man, should I just get up and leave or hang out? I have a story I could tell afterwards, but I'd love to hear the reason why you named it that.
Yeah, well, it's and I can tell, we're both of the same age and same sort of like ilk of selling, where what it's like standing in the lobby, right, or being in the lobby, right? Because a lot of people said to me, like, never sit in the lobby. They're like, what, should I wait in the car?
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, dude, just don't sit in the lobby, right? Like, just be standing up. And I said, so try to time your visit so that you're not there for an excess amount of time. And don't get distracted. Like, be waiting for the customer to present themselves. Go in, present yourself, tell them why you're here, who you're there to see. And, ostensibly that person will be walking down in, between 1 and 10 minutes, depending upon when you arrived. be focused. Don't get out your phone. Don't make phone calls from the lobby phone. Don't look at brochures. Don't be looking at the plaques on the wall. Be at attention and be waiting so that you can greet them. And for me, because I'm of a height challenged nature, right? If I was sitting down and a 6'4" guy came in, it would just make the problem even bigger, right? When you're 5.5 feet tall versus 6.5, you want to get every inch you can get. So having some guy come in when I'm sitting down and having to look up at him 3 or 4 feet above me, it's not a good look, right? And it allows you. And what I was finding was I would get distracted to the point where they would present themselves and I'd forget they weren't even there, right? And they would show themselves and they're like, excuse me, are you Glenn? Or and so people are like, well, what if I'm 20 minutes early? And I said, well, if you're 20 minutes early, in that case, you actually should be in your car, because the factor that comes before never sit in the lobby is the call book factor. And the call book factor states you pull into the parking lot and you pull out, nowadays in 2022, you pull out your phone or your iPad, right? Or maybe your laptop, right? Mm-hmm. But of course, the call book was the old days in the 80s. I had this little flip guide, and each page was an account.
Yeah,
and you could write the names and you cross them off, and you could pull them out when the customer went out of business. And you could open the 12-ring binder, little binder thingy, and insert another little for more customers and more. And it was super fast, right? You could flip, and come to the customer. And what I would do, and now with my phone, it's even easier because I can go on LinkedIn and look at them. But I would say, okay, I'm at Honeywell. I know 6 people. There's Bob. That's the bald guy. There's Rick. That's the tall guy, right? There's Sally. That's the buyer who's kind of scary looking, right? There's George. And I would memorize I would rememorize the face to the name, because we all have really good memories, but the problem is it's a very deep random access memory, but the seek time is very slow, right? So you'd be walking down the hallway with them, because one of the other rules is always ask for a mini tour. So when you're getting your mini tour, which we'll come to in a second, but you'll be seeing, and you say, hey, Bob, Jack, Bob, Sally, George. Yeah. And they're all thinking, who the hell is that guy? And then they remember, and the guy you're with is like, holy shit, this guy knows everybody. And so, because I had times in the past where people would say, oh, hey, Glenn, it's so great to see you. And I'm like, yeah, hey, I don't remember your name.
Yeah.
And now, isn't the immediate reaction when someone remembers your name and you don't remember theirs, is you immediately go, geez, I need to figure out what their name is. You don't think about like their spot in the org chart, who they are. You just are like, I got to know who their name is. Now it's stuck in your head. Right. And all of a sudden you're stuck in that person's head.
Well, so here's what happened. Here's the teachable moment. Here's what happens. All of a sudden the dynamic shifted. Now that other person who remembered your name has control of the situation. Yeah. So exactly. So the lesson is the easiest way to make a good to reestablish a good impression is take a couple of minutes, hop on LinkedIn and put a face to the name and just go in there and do it like you mean it. And if you want to save them, say, listen, most people don't remember my name. I'm hard to remember, but my name is, and you can do it after. And now you got 2 things, all of a sudden they think you're in a good place because you remember them and you save them. You basically, you let them off the hook. So you're a winner. That's all you need with the name. Richard Booty, the mayor of your company. Listen, this guy's applying for a job. I can tell. You see,
he's mayor. He went right to the mayor.
That's
level.
Right.
That's amazing. So Glenn, I've got something for you. Not to take this off the rails, but back to your book.
Sure.
Which I'm sure you're happy to talk about. But one of the lines that I noticed on the book, I would love for you to sort of unpack for us. So it says how to use greed-based learning.
Yes.
To help you effortlessly obtain the knowledge you need to sell your product.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that one. And I just, believe it or not, I was just before this, I was doing a job interview, and the guy was smart guy, had read the book, right? And I asked him, I questioned him on how he was going to approach this customer and the technology, because he said, well, I'll just use GBL. And I'm like, that's awesome. And so GBL is greed-based learning. And so I often tell everything in the form of a story or a metaphor, or, so the way I usually start to explain it is I say, look, imagine you're getting a new car, right? Like, I am not a car guy. Like, I love getting a new car, just like everyone does, right? But I don't spend any time looking at cars when I'm not getting a new car. But during that 4-week period, leading up to me getting my new car every 3 or 4 years, I become an expert on all the different cars, right? The Infiniti, the Lexus, the whatever, the Lincolns and whatever. I'm now at the point where I can get some of those cars, right? And before it used to be Ford, GM, and Chrysler, but nonetheless, I would know all about dual overhead cam, shock, this and that, dual exhaust, carbon fiber, such and such, whatever. I'm just making it up. But, for some reason, I would effortlessly, based on my greed for wanting the best car, be able to absorb and retain all of these facts about these cars, which I would then later promptly forget, right? And once I picked my car, and go back to not caring about cars and driving my car for 3 or 4 years and getting a new one and go do the same thing, right? The point is like, what's the lesson? The lesson is that when there's something in it for you, the learning becomes effortless. And so when I started in sales, we represent about 70 companies from around the world. Like, we don't make anything, right? We're a distributor. And so how in the world, and when I started in 1985, they had about 40 or 50 lines that they represented, that company. And I had to figure out, how am I ever going to learn all these things? And I started trying to just purely memorize it. And it was just like my eyes would glaze over and I'd fall asleep trying to and then I realized Jack wanted to buy one of the products we sell is like an oscilloscope, right? Or a signal generator or one of these instruments. And the moment I realized, well, wait a minute, that's a $12,000 instrument. And, I get 6%. And back in the day, we used to get high commission rates, right? I was thinking that's $700. Wow. And instantly I would actually be able to, because I had such a vested interest in getting that sale, something in me would allow me to learn and retain the basics of the product. So what I would do is I would call the factory rep, the FAE, the field application engineer, whoever was the guy at the factory that knew more than me, because I didn't work for the factory. And I say, hey, what are the top 5 things that I need to know about this product in order to maintain and hold a conversation? And, I'd have the unit in front of me and I'd say, what are the top buttons I need to push to show them how it works? And I just found that when I had the combination of potential earnings with an interested customer, and someone that's able to present the knowledge, I was able to retain it all. If I didn't have a vested interest, no one ever wanted to buy that product from me. I never had any interest to learn, and I never had any ability to retain it. And that's what I mean by GBL. It's but at its core, what it means is when the opportunity presents itself, just learn the top 5 things you really need to know about it, right? It's got 22-inch tires. It's got, anti-lock brakes, whatever 5, really important things are about a vehicle, maybe that set it aside. And, and then if it gets beyond that, like they used to do, phone a friend, and basically call the factory, or bring a factory rep with you, schedule a comprehensive demo. And
or talk to your customer. Talk to another customer who's already using it and find out all those things.
Yeah.
But Chris Stone, I love this guy. Glenn Poulos, you are the best. I'm telling you. You are as good as they go, except you won't look at the camera. Look at the camera. There you go. Right.
Well, I love mindset because, I think a lot of times we talk about, think about your customer and what problems they have and how this will solve their problems. Well, if you don't know enough about the product, and you're not hungry enough to learn about the product, which could be your commission or whatever, then you understand every nuance there is about it. And then so when you're talking to a customer and they say, well, I have this problem, and if you know more about that product, you can understand what those solutions are and be able to deliver it. I love that mindset, because we talk so much about the end, right? And it is about results, but if there's no knowledge, and that GBL, which we love acronyms on the show.
I was going to say GBL before you said it. I love that one. I'm stealing that.
There's actually another hidden benefit to it, which I do elaborate on in the chapter just quickly, is that, with 70 vendors, they come in and they want to go to customers, and they'd have a new technology, which I knew nothing about. And I had no idea. I had no GBL because I had no one interested yet. Right. And I would pick the guy up, take him to breakfast, and I'd say, tell me the top 5 things I need to know about this product, right? And he'd say, it's 20% faster and a bunch of other things, right? We show up at the first customer and I'd say, hey, I want to introduce Jack from the factory. This product is it's amazing. Can't wait to show it to you. One of the things I want to highlight, it's 20% faster. There's Jack. Let him fill in the gaps, right? And then he'd say, 20% faster, it's 20% deeper, so I'd go to the next customer. I'd say, hey, I want you to meet Jack. This product's amazing. You're going to love it. It's 20% faster, 20% deeper. And by the 5th call that day, right, I knew it was 20% faster, 20% deeper, 20% cheaper, 20% more environmentally friendly, right? And most of my people at my work cohort would not use that technique, right? And so then later he'd travel across North America visiting all my associated reps, and then he'd circle back to the sales manager. And they say, oh, how is your tour, right? Oh, it's great. That guy, Glenn, in Toronto, man, never lose him. He's freaking amazing. And because by the end of the day, I was introducing the top 5 things, and he would then get into the meat and potatoes of it all, right?
Such old school magic. Well, I'll tell you why.
Politicking, right?
Yeah, I tell you why you're such a good boss, manager, and leader. And it's evident from this interview. You are totally honest, and you're gonna teach people. You get a kick out of teaching people and of your employees, but you're sharing the inside with me. So if somebody wants, so this is the thing, because you're that way, you're going to attract people that want to work for your company. Now, you can tell right away if that person is a good applicant or not, simply by whether or not they've done research. The smallest amount of research on you, even just if all they did was watch this interview, they'd find enough about you, and they could spit it back to you, and they can go ahead and get. So that's how you can tell whether or not people do research, because you got this stuff out there. Yeah. I mean, right now I could close you. I know exactly what your hot buttons are,
for sure.
And anybody would, because you're that honest. Yeah. Gosh, this is a good. Where'd you get this guest from, Chris Stone?
Yeah. Well, I got one of those little books that I sat in the car and I looked through, and I had it was like The Honest Guy, and
I'm learning.
He just goes around lobbies looking for someone that's not sitting down and grabs him and says, "You're next."
That's it.
So my lobby story. I don't know if this ever happened to you, but my lobby stories. It was cold calling, and I went in to see this person, and the guy just didn't want to see me, but didn't have the guts to say, I said, the lady said he's in the back. I said, I'll just wait. I figured he had to come out eventually. Anyway, he went out the back door, left me there all day, and it got to a point where it was like a pissing match. And so I wasn't going to leave. Right. So he snuck out the back. That was the guy. I met him at his car, and that didn't work out either. But anyway, it was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I hear you.
All those things. Do you have any, when you first got started, how'd you get your first account?
So that's funny, actually. So I worked for just slightly before that, I worked for the federal government and the Environment Canada, the National Weather Service, basically equivalent in the US. And I was in their electronic, and I was fixing like electronic machines for the government, and that help measure cloud height and things like that. And my boss came to me. He was a former military guy, and he said, "Dude, like, you need to get out of the government. You should be in sales." And I didn't know why he said that. He just did, and I took it to heart. And he said, "Money flows out the end of a pen, not out of a toolbox." He said, "You should go get into business." And so I was technical, so I applied for a technical job. And as the story goes, I applied and I got the interview. And then every morning and afternoon for the next week or so, I followed up and I said, and the guy who was hiring, his name was Kim. And I said, oh, has Kim made a decision yet? Can I talk to Kim? Right. I just want to find out if he's hired, I'm interested in the results of the recruiting or whatever. Right. No, he's busy. Kim's not, he's not available, whatever. So then like 2 weeks later, Kim calls me, says, you're going to Montreal to meet the other guys. And I'm like, okay. So I get on a plane. I was working for the government. We were driving these Chevy Chevettes with no air conditioning, no power windows, no radio. I get on a plane, fly to Quebec. The owner of the company picks me up at the airport in a BMW 750. And I'm thinking, yeah, sales, man. Yeah, this is my kind of business, right? Pulls into their office in Saint Laurent, Quebec. And there's 3 BMW 750s, all with license plates 1 digit apart. And I'm like, oh, I've died and went to heaven. This is where I got to be, right? So they hire me for the job, and I go back to Toronto. Kim hires me, and he sits me down. He goes, you were at the bottom of our list to hire. We had no intention of hiring you. You had none of the skills that we wanted. And I'm like, well, then why did you hire me? He says, because you're the only one that followed up, and you're the only one that followed up twice a day for 2 weeks. And he said, if you could do that to get the job, we know what you could do to keep the job.
Oh my gosh. That's my wife's story. I pestered her every day for 6 months
to marry you.
Same line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Seriously.
That's exactly right. It's flattering. It's if you want something badly enough and they know it, it's flattering to them.
Yeah. And so, if you, so then you said, where'd I get my first customers? So imagine I don't know a good state to pick, but I mean, like Georgia, Florida, whatever, like pick the most hinterlands of one of those states where none of the customers are, you know what I mean? Like, like not Atlanta or, like the big where all the customers are, but in the perimeter boondocks of the state of Georgia. That was my territory. My boss said, where can I send this guy that he won't do any damage at all? And so they sent me to Windsor, Ontario, right? Which is on the border of Detroit and Windsor.
Been there many, many, many times.
Yeah. And he figured, and of course, their business pretty much stopped like an hour before Windsor, towards Toronto, right? Like, and 2 hours outside of Toronto. And he thought, yeah, that's the farthest. We'll send him out there. So, and this was not a typical customer for that business, but Ford was there. And obviously it's across the river from Detroit. And the University of Windsor was there. And so I basically, started, hey, I'm the new rep. I'm coming to town. I'm dropping by. I've got some new literature. I got something in my hand and something in my mind. And they said, okay, drop by. And I had been spent 3 months in there learning some of these products and what have you. And so they sent me to Ford. To make a long story short, the guy at Ford didn't want to buy anything that we sold. He didn't need any of these instruments, but he told me he had this giant machine, and it had these little electrodes that would click around in 360 degrees, and the little copper electrodes that showed the angle of spinning would break off after every once in a while. And they had no way of figuring out where it was, which it was, and whatever. And I figured out our one of our instruments that was used for a different purpose could count those pulses. And these were $6,000 instruments in 1985. And the guy ended up buying 12 of them on my first sales call of my life.
Awesome.
And after that, I went to the University of Windsor, and the guy said, oh yeah, and he started talking about this semiconductor research that he was doing. And he said, there's this government grant coming for 12 schools in Canada, and we're going to be buying these, instruments. And I went back to the president and I said, first of all, I sold 12 of those $6,000 counters. And of course he was like gobsmacked. And I said, and by the way, you need to go sign up one of these vendors that I said, there's going to be millions of dollars. He's like, dude, like, you're a kid, like go back to your, stick to your knitting. Don't worry about it. And like a month later, he finally got the message, and he did sign up a vendor, and they did millions of dollars of business in this, and And I for 5 years, I always remind him. I said, remember when I brought that deal to you and and you blew me off? And he goes, yeah, you did. Right. And so eventually he let me go from Windsor to Sarnia, Chatham, London, Waterloo, Kitchener, all the way back to Toronto. And, that's how I ended up expanding it. And 5 years later, I brought them a business idea and they rejected it. And so I quit and I started my own company, focused on, this was in 1991, focused on this crazy technology, which we all knew would never make it, called the cell phone. And we all knew that was going to be a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
And
it was.
Yeah.
So was the internet.
With Nokias.
Yeah.
Who's going to have an antenna on their phone?
Yeah.
I remember all that stuff. That is just awesome. And you managed to use the word gobsmacked and stick to your knitting. I mean, this is like Patrick Tinney all over the place.
Yeah.
Do you know where Buckhorn in Canada is by chance, Glenn?
Buckhorn. I'm pretty sure that's in Northern Ontario, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay. And up in that's like hunting country, I think, up in Northern Ontario.
I think the only person that lives in Buckhorn is Patrick Tinney.
Yeah,
but
we got a fan.
Wow.
In sales, who's
Speak for
Patrick
yourself.
Tinney's a great guy. Well, Glenn, I cannot believe this has been 55 minutes and 29 seconds already. The time has just flown by. This is terrific.
I only have 54 more tips to go, so we got another hour.
Right. Well, this is great. So if somebody wants to reach you, what would be the best avenue for them to do so for speaking or helping your sales team, or heck, I think you're the type of guy that would even do coaching and stuff. So how would somebody reach you?
You can go to my website, myname.com, glennpoulos.com, and all the contact information is there. And obviously I'm on LinkedIn and all the other social media, but they're all linked from my website anyway. So if you go there, you can contact me, and I'm very approachable and easy to get a hold of. And there's a chapter in the book on returning calls, and I'll let you read it, and the harsh lesson I learned. So if you call me, I will call you back. So,
well, that's great. And somebody, if they're looking for a job, can do the same.
They can contact me. They can contact my company is gapwireless.com. And they're more than welcome to reach out to me via that, and be happy to talk to them.
And you'll get back to them. You see, and that's a test also to see if somebody's willing to take the initiative to do that instead of working through HR in that whole realm. Well, this is great. One last thing I didn't ask, what's your family situation? How things going? Everybody happy and healthy?
Everyone's good. Yeah. So I have a bit of a blended family. I have a reasonably new wife. We have we have 5 kids and 2 dogs, 2 cats, and everybody's healthy and, doing well. So pretty fortunate in that regard right now.
Yeah, that's good. That's good living. Everybody likes each other?
Yeah, for the most part, Okay. And
you're still young. You got I went to a family reunion this weekend. My mother-in-law is one of 16 kids, and they're all older now and all that stuff. But this year we went to it, and they always have a table with just like a person's picture on it who may have deceased. Anyway, there were 10 tables this year. Imagine that. So, big families and have all that. But there were 70, 80 people there, and everybody got along, and it's a great time to tell stories about everybody. But it's a weird thing because you see these old pictures a lot, who's that one? Who's that? You kind of lose track, and the way you keep up that stuff is do what you're doing, Glenn, is by you're a constant builder. You're building businesses, you're building your family, and you're building a legacy of yourself with all the tutoring that you're doing. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to meet you and to speak with you. And we'll have to stay in touch forever and ever.
Absolutely.
Best friends, except unless Chris Stone gets in the way. That's how he is. So I appreciate you, Chris Stone, once again.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, thanks.
Great job. Production value beyond compare.
Oh my
and you
God,
guys out there, remember, sales is more than just a way to make a living. You do it right, and be like Mr. Poulos here, and you could earn a fortune. And it's so much easier to earn.
That's exactly right.
Well, because when you have the passion to go out there and earn your fortune, you're constantly in the mindset of building and growth, and only good stuff happens with that attitude. You guys are the best. I'm the Dij. Go get them today.
Thank you.